These experiments, we can actually see this displayed, and it's very powerful. If you don't want to do an experiment, you can conduct a survey. These are explained in the large document on Moodle about your final project. There are lots of examples. I want you to get excited about the idea of doing your project now, so that as we're talking throughout the semester, if something comes up in your journal or in the diversity stories, I might say, that might be good for your final project. You can keep that in mind. Here's another one. I had a student who was a black female, 19 years old. She decided she wanted to see what it would be like if she pretended to be homeless and went shopping at an upscale mall. She went to the Oak Park Mall in Kansas City, and she told me it was a predominantly white, upscale mall. I suggested if you go shopping, you have your observation team, like friends or relatives, but keep them back so no one knows they're with you. First, my student went to a dumpster, and she picked through the dumpster to find the mismatched clothes she wore to the mall. She went to 9 different stores. Many different things happened. In one store, they were nicer and treated her like a regular customer, but in most stores, they called security, ignored her, whispered, and pointed at her. When she finally went to buy something, they were very surprised. Then she had the guts to go back to each of the places and tell them how she was treated. At one of the places, they asked how they did. She said, "You're getting an F, but I'm getting an A." She did get an A. The reason I'm giving A's is not because you found discrimination. We know discrimination is out there, but sometimes you won't find it. Like at the Saturn dealership, we have sent people of different ages, races, sizes, whatever, and they get the same treatment. We're happy to find places where there's not discrimination, but we will not be naive enough to think there is no discrimination in the world if there is no discrimination evidenced in your project. So you can get an A even if your results are not exciting or not what you predict. Sometimes the projects are a little more lighthearted. I had a student who was a white male in his 40s. He realized that when he went out with his girlfriend, that waiters and waitresses would normally give him the tab. He thought, what would happen if I don't speak and give my girlfriend the power in the relationship by letting her do all the talking? Will that impact whether or not they will give me or her the bill? It was inconclusive. One of the times they gave it to her, one time they put it next to the edge, and then they gave it to him. And that's fine. This is CD 200, and it is not your master's thesis nor doctoral dissertation. We aren't going to worry if things are not conclusive, and you are not going to change things up and say, oh, Dr. Browning will like this project a lot better if I say that this happened. We will just investigate and not try to prove something. If you think about your project and you think you already know what will happen if you go shopping dressed up or dressed down, then that is not the project for you. You could do other things that aren't of an experimental nature, like a survey or an observation. These things are listed on Moodle. I do ask during the first week that you give me an idea of what you might do, but you are perfectly free to change your idea when we turn in the project plan a few weeks later. I'm not going to go through the other assignments at this point. They will be introduced through Moodle. The grading scale is there on your syllabus, and it's pretty basic. Then there's a section about academic honesty. Please do your own work and don't copy from the internet or from your friends' classmates or whatever. I did have a student copy, and the consequences were severe. I want to get to know you through your writing because that is all we're going to have. I want to restate that if you ever need me to call you back and talk to you about something, I'm glad to do that if it's harder for you to communicate through email or you feel like you really need to ask me something like a series of questions. Leave me an email telling me that you need a call and leave me your phone number and a time that might work. I'll make sure that I get back with you. In terms of the policies, turn in the work when it's due. If there is a problem getting your work in, like your power goes out, just make sure you get with me. I'm really into communication, and if you tell me what's going on, like something's happening in your life, I will understand that. I will be a lot more understanding of you and your situation than if you don't turn your work in and I don't hear from you. Once again, over-communication is much better than under-communication. If you are turning in work more than 1 week late, you will need to make sure we have a phone or virtual conference to find out what's going on. I may or may not accept your work, or you may receive partial credit. Also, if something is not working on Moodle, please let me know immediately. Please do not leave a message within that assignment or discussion post, as I may not see that for days. Oh, I want you to understand that your grades will go up and down as I finish grading assignments and posts. At points, the grading program may put in a 0 until I have graded something, so please don't be alarmed. Again, ADA is in effect. I'm not sure of the format using the internet, but if you have an issue that relates to ADA compliance and there's something I need to know related to your learning that would help, you do not need to tell me what your disability is. You just need to tell me that this applies to you and how we can accommodate you. You can talk to the ADA coordinator, or if you are on campus, you can visit 304 Founders Hall. As for the rest of the syllabus, we are not going to go through it day by day or week by week. I will just say some general things here. Again, because this is a class without tests, perhaps you can read things differently than you would have in the past if you had to study and remember data. You do not need to read to memorize, but rather to engage with the text and author. For example, if you don't understand 2 paragraphs, you can just put a question mark by them as you're reading and keep going. And if it's important at the end, then ask the question in your journal post. Your journal responses need to be at least 150 words and can be questions you have about the articles. No one will think you are stupid. Questions are one of the best ways we can interact with material. If each person reads something, they will have a slightly different view on it. And what I want when you're reading and writing in your journal is for you to tell your stories. For example, normally during the regular 16-week semester, we read a history book that we aren't using in the summer. One of the chapters talks about the Irish and the British were not allowed to intermarry. One of my students wrote in her journal about that. She was a white student and wrote that in her family, interracial marriage wasn't accepted, but her cousin married interracially and was happy. However, her cousin's dad wouldn't go to the wedding. Even though what she read was about the British and the Irish, when she wrote in her journal, she didn't mention that. It seems like it's off the subject, but really, it's right on the subject to talk about how it relates to you. When you are thinking about writing in your journal, I don't want you to write, I like this, I didn't like this. If you're going to say this, you'll have to give a lot more explanation. I want. This reminds me of what I saw in the news, or the movies, or what happened to me, I wondered about. Your journals are not going to be an essay, they will be stream of consciousness, telling what did you think about the reading. If you look at your reading assignments, you'll see that each week has a cluster of assignments. You're going to read all the assignments, and there's sets in your assignments with clusters also within the sets. You can skim through the parts that seem difficult or boring. As long as you're getting the basic gist of the article, that is the point. Keep a pen or pencil in hand to underline and write your feelings. That helps keep you involved in your readings and also generates discussion for your journal. When you get done reading the article, you can look back at what you underlined and write about that in your journal. For the first entry, there is culture and also introduction and chapter 1. So there's 3 things. What I want you to do is I'll read all 3 of those, and then you're going to pick one aspect of one of them to write about. If you decide that you like the Johnson introduction from page 7, if there's something on there that intrigues you or makes you mad or causes you to question, title your entry Johnson page 7 introduction in the private journal area. Then write about what it is that is related to you or made you question, and you might say, I realize that if I were going out with a friend of mine of a different race, people might think that I am paying because I am white. And that has actually happened to me, even when that was not the case. So you will explore that issue in detail. Do not write a summary of the book. Write about your own experiences and questions in relation to the book. For every set that you have, there will be one writing that you'll do. So you'll read everything. If there's 3 things, you'll still only write 1. If we have 10 sets, there'll be 10 different journals that you will have written. There's also the explanation on Moodle and here in your syllabus. Remember, your syllabus does not have all the work because there's just too much to list. It's very important to use your syllabus in conjunction with the weekly assignments and the semester-long assignments that are on Moodle. And if you have questions, remember I'm here by email or phone. I'm a people person and I want to help you do well in this class. Please talk to me and please check your email regularly, as I will also send mailings with reminders and clarification. All right, thanks a lot.